WSTU, it is 9:06, and that means it is time for the Forum with your host, Pat Sacco.
Good morning, Michael.
Morning, Pat.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How do you like this wonderful warm weather in the morning?
I am ecstatic about it. Love it.
It's nostalgic.
That's it.
For we have another 3 or 4 days, and we're back in the 80s.
Yeah,
again.
we'll be back up in the 80s before you know it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Especially in the morning. It's a little chilly to be 40, 50 degrees. I like the 70 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
65, 80. That's Hawaii.
Yes.
Every day, 65, 80.
Mm-hmm. I'll take that.
I had a friend who lived in Hawaii, and I said, "What'd you think of the weather?" She said, "Every morning I woke up and said, 'Oh no, another damn nice day.'" They're fairly consistent in their weather. Good morning. I have with me today Brian Langworthy, and Brian works for VIP America. And VIP America is a very interesting company. It's a very diverse company, actually, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What is your title, Brian?
I am the business executive manager for VIP America.
Okay, very good. You still on Monterey and that corner?
Yep, right off Canner,
Canner.
right across from the Wawa store.
Right. The former director there was a good friend of mine. In fact, we were on the area agency on aging together. And he was a really neat guy.
Gil?
Gil, yeah, really a neat guy.
Unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to meet with him before he passed, but I've heard nothing but good things about
Very
him.
calm, very genteel, nice. He's a guy you'd like to have as a friend,
Exactly. And his wife, Joan, is still, a big part of the organization. Yes, and their daughter, Jill Ball, is the president. And, they've been in business since 1997. So it's a family-run business. And, they're really a staple in the market here.
And I was doing a workshop, and I needed a sponsor. So I went to him. I said, "Would you be interested?" He said, "Well, what do you want?" I said, "I don't care." He's going to hand me. He said, "Wait, I'll be right back." He went and got a check for $500. He said, "Just put my name on the flyer." Other people you have to beg, and I'm not saying that that's not what they would do, but just his nature was he knew, he understood, and it's. To me, a business that does business only within their walls is a decent business. A business that does business in their walls and sponsors something in the community is outstanding. And there's a shtick. You can say, look, we are a profitable company. However, we believe in the community.
That's right.
There's a show on, and I'm advertising for it, and it's a religious show. A priest and a rabbi, is it a priest and a rabbi walk into a bar?
Are we talking about the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, Priest and a Rabbi here on Friday mornings.
Friday mornings at 9:00 on WSTU. I had happened to go to a church where this priest was preaching, the big tall one, Christopher, I guess?
Christian.
And he gave this sermon. He's bouncing around. He's got this energy, and, it was just great. So after the mass, he's at the door and we were shaking hands and I said, I love your show. I said, I have a show on Thursday. Oh, he said, well, you can come on my show. I said, well, you can come on my show. And then I thought, what am I going to talk about with his religious thing? And then I thought, I've got the perfect idea. Just hit me like a ton of bricks. Senior networking.
Perfect.
Is a religion. The definition of religion is community. All right. And we do what we do to help the community. We're sponsoring that boy who's going to London, all right, with the school and the choir.
That's right.
And he didn't have a suitcase. I had years ago, I bought a 3-piece suitcase with a big suitcase I never used. So the mother said he needs a suitcase. I gave him mine. I said, use it. I don't need it. That one I don't need. So they've had this outpouring of support. And that's something we're doing to help people. And that's really what that religion kind of thing is all about. So I can fend for myself with them because it's we, and I never thought about this before, but it's something we do together, that we come together and we have a common purpose and we look to help each other. And that's every building that's a church does that same thing.
Agreed.
Incidentally, you should listen to that program at 9:00 on Friday morning. Those guys are a hoot. And both of them are really experts in their religion. And so many things are in common between the Episcopal Church or Christian church and a Jewish church. So many things in common. And you can tell how much they like each other by their bantering and their joking around. It's really neat. It isn't one of these stale sermons, that you fall asleep about. Anyway, that's what we look for, Brian. We look for things that are unusual. I love it when they say, "Oh, hey, all home health agencies are alike." No, they are not. It's like if you look like, there's Aberdeen Russell and the nursing home across the street from it. They're like two different countries. It's like Bolivia and Ecuador. They both have the same license, but their culture in their building is different. Each building has a culture. Each business has a culture. You may be providing home health services. And how many of those agencies are out there?
Oh, there's quite a few.
And how many are common? That you're identical? No, they're not. It's a philosophy that you set up as a business. It's you're dealing with a family-owned business. It's completely different than a board of directors and people who don't really know each other that well.
That's right. That's right.
And probably get things done quicker and better with a family structure because you live it.
That's right.
And if I were in your shoes, I'd say I'm more comfortable working with a family-owned business.
Well, it's so funny you say that because a little bit of my background, my mom passed away back in May.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And my brothers and I have two older brothers, and we just kind of went from 0 to 100 miles an hour at the snap of a finger. You just, you kind of expect, you get older, you pass away, but you don't expect people to get sick and then, have to figure out what you're going to do. So my brothers and I, we were thrown into that position. Just, we didn't know. And, mom's wishes were she wanted to, stay in her home. She did not want to go to another facility. And, eventually she wanted to pass away with her three sons around her. Mm. And, after we got our bearings, at first we ended up hiring a lady from the country, Georgia, to come in and watch my mom. And just the cost factor was phenomenal. We were paying $1,600 a week. And, that can drain anyone's wallet real quick. So when I had the opportunity to come here to Florida, and again, I've been in sales for 30 years, but just recently the past 4 or 5 months in home health care. So I kind of have a passion, or I feel a calling to get out there and help people that might not understand just how to maneuver in this industry. Right. So, so far it's been, phenomenal for me, just the relationships that I've built in a short time. And it warms my heart to be able to go out and gives people information that's going to help them.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Brian a minute. I know you were born at a very early age. Give me a background on you. After high school, what did you do?
After high school, I went to college. I went to a small college in Virginia Beach called Virginia Wesleyan. And
I know that.
I played 4 years of varsity soccer there.
Excellent.
So, and I started out as a communications major, and I was going to work with, the handicapped. I was looking at going into teaching. I was a activity therapist in a psych hospital for a while. And I felt like I needed to do more. And I got into logistics for quite a few years. I worked for a couple steamship lines, and we lived in South Florida for a short time, and my job transferred me to Georgia. We were in Georgia for 22 years. And we raised 4 beautiful children. My son Brian is out in the West Coast in LA. My daughter Megan is married in Goodyear, Arizona, with a new baby, Judah. He's a year old now. Patricia and John live down here in Palm Bay with another 8 grandkids. So we were in Georgia, and it was like, no one's coming back. Everyone left the nest. So we've decided to pack up and, get close to the family down here. And if anybody else comes to visit us, we'll have a good chance of getting the whole family together.
Beautiful.
So it's God's amazing.
4 years of soccer in college, huh?
Yes.
My son went to the State University College in Cortland, New York, which is a Jack college. Got a degree in phys ed, and they were a Division III team, and they won the Division III NCAA tournament. And so I know I mean, the kid played soccer from the time he could, run around and kick a ball and other things. Actually, I have to brag. He was a sophomore in high school, and he got a letter one time from the Cincinnati Reds, and they wanted him to try out for baseball because he was a baseball hero in a small town. So, he's been into that sports thing. In fact, he just retired from playing soccer. He works now for the Consumer Financial Protection Agency in Washington. And there's a stadium down by the Lincoln Memorial with lights, and they play soccer there. And years ago, when he went to Washington, he called me and said, Dad, I just joined a soccer team. I said, come on, you're getting old. No. I said, who's your competition? And there's silence. And then he said, well, there are a lot of diplomats from Central and South America that are former World Cup soccer players.
Ouch.
And I said, you keep up with them? And he goes, yeah.
Well, it's funny because growing up, I was always very tall. Right now, I'm 6'5", 270, working on that weight. But I in college and growing up as a youngster, I was, very thin. And, I always wanted to play football, but Mom was like, no, you'll end up with broken bones. So that's how I kind of got thrown into soccer. But boy, I would have loved to have been like a, wide receiver.
Yeah, well, he had a couple of torn ACL, his Achilles tendon ripped playing in Washington. But had I done it over again, I would have gotten him into golf and tennis, the individual development sports rather than the contact. I mean, you're playing football and you're a guard and you're there just hitting people. That's your job. You don't have any skill other than the brute force.
That's right. That's right. And living down here in Florida, it'd be nice to play a little bit more golf.
Yeah, and we encourage kids to play these team sports.
That's right.
I wish we did. Had I known back then, we would have just gotten the individual ones. For he just had a knack for things, as you probably did too. Like how do you move so quickly on the soccer field? How do you not get so winded? Well, you could say, well, I don't know. It's just me. It's what I do.
That's right.
I notice other people fall down. I don't. He was a catcher, and I think this is what attracted them. He would get in the catcher stance, and the kid from first base would start stealing. He took the ball in his ear and did a flick to second base. They stopped stealing on him.
Wow.
That rocket thing was thrown from his ear. I said, how do you do that? He said, I don't know. He said, those kinds of things.
It's an art. It really is.
And a lot of it is natural talent, but you can develop that talent. But there's that base that you have to have.
And it's good to have coaches too that encourage you to get out there. And, some people can just pick it up at the drop of a hat, and other people, it takes practice. And it's like anything, practice will get you to where you need to be.
I have a friend, you probably know her, but I'm not going to mention her on the radio. Has a daughter who's 13 years old. She's been being taken up every week to Orlando to a tennis club. She has professional training. She competes with high school seniors in tournaments and wins. And they took her to Wimbledon this year. And they watched that little 15-year-old girl win. And I was at an event with her, the kid, and I said, hey, can you beat her? Can you play against her? She said, I can beat her. She said, and when I'm at that age, I'm going to beat her. And this kid is going to go on to college and be on a famous soccer or tennis team, probably get into the pros. You can see that natural talent. She's tall, she's willowy, but God, she's got a hit. She's got a backhand. How do you develop those things? And there's a lot of innate talent hidden there. With a good coach, they can bring that out.
That's right. That's right.
And this is good because she's not apt to go hang out on the streets. She's not apt to do stupid things because she's in this regimented schedule of practice and sleep and homework, and she's driven to want to be better.
That's right.
And then you can't find a kid who will be better than that.
Well, it's funny because then you look at a family like the Manning family. You have Archie Manning, Eli Manning.
And the one brother was supposedly better than Peyton.
That's right. But he, I think he had a neck injury.
Yeah, some kind of injury, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, wow.
Can you imagine having, missing out on the Heisman Trophy as he did originally and the father, and then Peyton comes along and signs $100 million contract for 10 years. And then Eli comes along and signs a $50 million for 10 years. And I'm sure Peyton said, well, you're only half as good as I am.
That's right. Yeah.
They own a plane. And during Katrina, they filled that plane with supplies many times and flew into New Orleans to bring supplies in. The brothers.
Wow.
I mean, they're very community conscious.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. See, that's what we were talking about earlier. You get involved in the community and you are not doing it to make your business better, but you're doing it to make yourself feel better. And you have an edge over other competitions because you're doing something beyond. When I was doing volunteer work with the Alzheimer's Association, I was running memory walks, and there were two competing pharmacies, and I won't mention their names. One of them we went to, and they said, sure, we'll get a team together. We'll raise some money. And then the other one said, no, we don't do that. And then I found out that other pharmacy during Christmas would send out a notice to all the employees, if you give out anything free, you're fired. And I'm thinking, boy, isn't that a wonderful advertisement for your business?
A nice message, yeah.
When you're happy with the business, you tell 3 people. When you're unhappy with the business, you tell up to 20. I've been spreading the word all over. Do not go shop there. They're not nice people. They don't care about people. They care about money. You know, I mean, it's dumb, but that's the way they choose to do their business.
That's right.
I'm not saying you're going to give all these charity things and everything, but you do something that makes you sets you apart from your competition. And the strange thing about Treasure Coast is we have friendly competition. There's not this dog eat dog, you know, we're trying to get your business and trying to steal your patient, and I don't like you because you work for them kind of thing. Especially with the senior network, you see a bunch of 4 women sitting together, and they're all marketers of 4 different ALs, and they're friends because they may be wearing that name tag next month.
That's right. That's right.
Because the turnover is great.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I attend a lot of chamber functions, and you're right. It's nice because, I mean, your competition is there, but it's friendly competition. And I've made referrals to some people, you know, to my competition, if we can handle that, and vice versa. It's like, well, we might be a little bit more expensive, but I know VIP American can handle something like that. And, you know, it's interesting at the chambers, everybody can get up and say their 15-minute elevator speech, which is nice because you kind of get to know everybody, you get to know what businesses there are. But it's important to always say thank you. And I always try to let people know that, you know, if you have an opportunity to be someone's miracle today, do it.
Exactly.
You know, because it's giving back. It's something as simple as, you know, holding the door for someone or giving someone a simple smile at the register. You know, you don't know what day that person's having, but your actions make that name tag work. Your actions make that company be noticed. That's it.
You know, it isn't the other way around. And the name tag is not going to have people notice you. You are doing that on behalf of that tag.
That's right.
And that's very important. And your personality and your way you work mean success or failure for your company. And I'm sure they're aware of all of these things, you know, because that's their business.
Exactly.
And it's kind of neat being in a business that you serve people and make things better, you know, rather than being in the funeral business. You make things final.
That's it. People are dying to get in.
But then again, look at the atmosphere. If there's a wake or a celebration at a funeral home, it's solemn, but it's not morose. There's smiles. It's calm, but it is a celebration. People say, I'm not celebrating, I'm grieving. Well, you're grieving, but the person who is passed is now pain-free. And it's a big thing.
That's right. That's a great way to look at it.
You know, and some people have suffered for a long time. I've got 2 friends right now, both have brain tumors. And within the next 2 weeks, we're going to find out what their actual prognosis is. And one is kind of touchy because they did a procedure that they say they can't do again. And it's a very aggressive tumor. So they're probably going to get a little time frame after this within the next week or 2. And then here we are going to try to support the family. And, you know, it's like putting an animal down, which we just did.
That's right.
And you'd say, "Oh, geez, an animal. It's a grieving process." I mean, if I had a cat 17 years, which we had, and we just had to put him down a week and a half ago, there's a grieving process. I didn't realize. I just look around the house. She's not there. And I remembered some things about her, and there's a sign of a bittersweet kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But she was in pain. She was in pain. She was in kidney or renal failure. A couple other things were happening to her, and we decided, hey, we're not going to let her continue to suffer like that.
It's a hard decision to make, but it's the right decision, especially to be there holding them, caring for them.
Unfortunately, we can't do that with people. We don't. Well, generally, we don't do that with people. I got to investigate morphine a little more in depth, because morphine is a great drug to take pain away. But I understand it accelerates the heart and actually moves you along the path of not living that long.
Correct. That's what we went through with my mom and hospice, and it was very sad. Something that I'll remember for a long time. But
hospice is tough, especially toward the end. It's really tough to go and see them at that stage. I have a cute joke. I've told this several times. I have had a friend named Jim, and his wife was neat, and he was neat. They were a neat couple. He was sick, and he was dying, and he was in a hospice bed at their facility in Stewart. And I went to see him because I knew the end was near. And generally, I wouldn't do that, but Jim was a good friend. And we went to the same church, and occasionally I would cook a dinner for 50 or 60 people. And he would say to me, no chicken. I hate chicken. Get me something else. I always had to cook him something different because he hated chicken. Where he's laying there half conscious. His wife was sitting there in tears when I walked in, holding his hand. And I walked up to him and I whispered in his ear, and he started laughing. And his wife said, "What'd you say to him?" I said, "Jim, there is no chicken in heaven." She started to laugh. He was laughing. We had about a half hour. We had a great conversation.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I left them with tears of joy rather than tears of sadness. And he died the next day. And I know he's up there having different meals.
That's right.
He won't have any chicken. And I think that's what you need to do, is not to get somebody to laugh, but get them to focus on a positive thing.
That's right.
Grief is horrible. It's necessary at a time, but it's not necessary to continue that grief for long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to think about the fact that, what is it? Who was it? George Bernard Shaw, they talked about Man and Superman, and talked about the death process begins at birth.
That's right.
And yeah, that's a real negative way, but it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're here, I happen to think that we have to do something before we go, that we're destined for something.
I agree.
Seeing your 3 sons and seeing your grandchildren, or something you never imagined you would do, or do something for someone you never thought would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they'd say, okay, it's your turn, And I think what we need to do is, I love my philosophy is live every day as if it's the last day of your life, because one day you're going to be right.
That's right. That's right. Some people get up in the morning and say, good morning, Lord. And other people get up and say, good Lord, it's morning. So again, you have 2 choices. So it's, take the happy path.
I'm always a half full glass.
I try to be
a person.
That's important.
And if I get negative thoughts, I go, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm too busy. I'm too busy to dwell on my age. I'm too busy to dwell on the negative thing. But okay, let's get back to VIP America.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Speaking of VIP, I came up with some interesting statistics, and right now they're saying there are 8,000 baby boomers in the United States turning 65 every day.
Every day.
Every day. I mean, that's an amazing number.
Wow.
And then in 2013, adults over 65 constituted 14% of the population, and in the USA, and will account for an estimated 20% by 2050.
Wow.
So It's just, people are living longer. There are already 55,000 Americans over the age of 100, and by 2050, the number of centurions will reach 60,000.
Oh, geez.
And one crazy fact that I've heard was that 63% of caregivers end up passing away before the person that they're taking care of.
Yes.
So it's so important to, focus on your own health as you take care of other people. And everyone's going 100 miles an hour trying to take care of their spouse, that they're not taking care of themselves. So
Correct.
that's where VIP can come in and, be a blessing.
Well, people say, well, why does that happen? Well, first of all, you have a 24-hour, 7-day sentence. You can't go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Your loved one may be out the door, out the window. You can't, somebody wakes up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning and wants dinner. And then says, who are you all the time? You're in an Alzheimer's or dementia kind of thing.
That's right.
And after a while, this really wears on you.
Ugh.
And the longer you are with a person, the more separated you become, the less tolerant you become, the more angry you become. Because he doesn't know me. The most beautiful thing I ever heard was a woman with Alzheimer's turned to her husband and said, I don't know who you are, but I know you love me. Now, how do we make them? Here's a neat little thing that we've worked up as a little plan. Let's say a couple that married 55, 60 years, always held hands and kissed each other and hugged and stuff. Now, when the wife goes to touch him, he recoils back. And she says, he doesn't love me anymore. He said, no, he doesn't know you. How do we introduce him again? Simple. We put him on one end of the couch. I put a chair in front of him. We're knee to knee. I may be holding his hands, talking to him, and she's sitting on the other end of the couch. As we're talking, I nod and she slides over a little bit. I nod and she comes up shoulder to shoulder, and he sees her, but we're still talking. And we're talking a little bit, and she'd either hold our hands or put her arm around him or put her head on his shoulder. And little by little, I'm introducing her back into his world, not as a wife, but as someone who's secure and safe.
Mm.
And we do that often enough, he will accept her as part of his world, not knowing who she is, but knowing that she has some love for him. But why don't we do these kinds of things rather than go in another room so he won't hear us?
That's right.
We have to, the thing that we're not doing well at all is training a caregiver in how to do these kinds of things to keep the engagement going. Engage him, or engage her. Don't put her in front of a TV for 13 hours. They go to workshops and they talk about all these things, come home and plunk her in front of the TV again and go do your own thing. No, engage. 5 minutes an hour, 10 minutes an hour, do a little activity, no problem.
Yeah.
We got a whole bunch of them we suggest. That takes away some of the depression. That maybe make her live a little bit longer.
That's amazing.
So we're not yet focused on that in a grand way, but that'll come.
Mm-hmm.
That'll come.
Yeah, I was talking to, I heard a conversation that was going on, and that person was saying, well, why do you go, visit your wife, every day? She doesn't know you, she doesn't know who you are. And he said, well, that's very simple. I know who she is and I love her. So it's.
But then the flip side is true too. I remember in the nursing, we had a lady who had a stroke or whatever, and she was in a bad way. And the husband was angry. Oh, is he angry? He said, look what she did to me. He said, for all our lives, we saved money so we could travel and do fun things. And look at her now. I said, but look at you. Yeah, but I can't do anything by myself. And she's all, yeah. He said, I should go home and kill myself. Somebody heard that in the office, called the police, and the police met him at his door. Said, you threatened to kill yourself.
To harm yourself.
That's right. That's right. Well, the guy obviously needed some counseling, needs some help in coping with the reality of the situation. And a lot of people won't do that. So I think the older we get, the more we get what I call hardening of the categories. I'm not going to do a computer. I don't want a cell phone. I don't want this. Those kids do that kind of thing. I'm not going to do that. I think we have to roll with the punches.
Mm-hmm.
People say, I don't want to do a computer. Well, the computer is one of two things. It's either a total mystery or a no-brainer. Let's say I don't know how to do Word. And somebody shows me what to click and how to type and how to save. And suddenly it becomes a no-brainer. I can do it and do it and do it. Same with a spreadsheet. How you got all these columns and numbers. How do you do the total? Well, here's this little formula you put over here. And you put the range. And by God, it totals by itself. And every time it changes, it totals. Oh, wow, that's what I've been looking for. So now it becomes a no-brainer. With programs like that, there's no deep-seated knowledge that you have to go study.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple thing. How do we do a replacement? I was teaching a course in clinic, and we had to write reports for clients. And I showed them how to take a report. And let's say then Jim was all the way through this report. I said, you wanted to put Bird in there. And it was a Apple computer. So you had to do Open Apple, which is the control key. Open Apple R and type in Harry and hit return. And all the Jims would turn to Harry. So we would replace those things. That's a replacement. That's simple little things. I didn't have to type the report again. I could modify it.
Yeah.
So little cute things and go, okay, now I remember that little movement. Let's say you're going to do an event for VIP America and for the public, and I'm going to blast it out, and you send me a Word document. Well, I can turn it into a JPEG because there's a little program that I can hit a couple of keys and it fades, and then I can just drag and click and it turns into a JPEG. And then when I put it in my system, I need a JPEG to blast it out. Simple little thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because how do you change it from a word processor to a JPEG file? And, this is all these. No, it's a little simple key click. And so we need to have courses for people. We need to train them on doing things in the modern way. If somebody has a flip phone and gets into a cell phone, no, I don't do it until they get a cell phone. And then they become animals. They're texting people all over the country.
Yeah. The Kane Center here has some great programs for whether it's, iPad, computers, iPhones, to classes where the, elderly can come in or not so elderly. I mean, heck, I remember, a couple times when my kids were at college, the remote would fall off the counter and something would happen. It's like my wife and I'd be like, all right, we need to call the grandkids or find out where the kids are, 'cause we're not watching TV until somebody comes home.
What about this new one with, is it AT&T has the voice remote?
Oh yeah, that's going to be on our Christmas list.
That's nice.
And speaking of Christmas, it's that's always a tough time for the elderly a lot, or not just the elderly, anybody. So it's important to get out there and, let people know you love them. And if you can involve yourself in the community with volunteer work, it's definitely a great time of year to do it.
I'm going to make a suggestion to people out there. How do you deal with it? It used to be, when we didn't have all this technology, after dinner, we'd take a walk down the neighborhood and people would be sitting on their porches waving and stuff.
That's right.
We knew our neighbors. We didn't lock our doors and stuff. Some people will live in a neighborhood for years and years and not know their next door neighbor. I'm going to make a suggestion. Why don't we make it a happy holiday season? Bake some cookies or a loaf of bread and take it to your neighbor.
Pay it forward, yeah.
Say, gee, I'm sorry we haven't gotten to know each other, but I just want to bring you over here and say thank you for being my neighbor. If we did that, oh my God, then later you'd get a pie returned or something, right? Because we used to do those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's funny. You'll hear like the McDonald's line where someone will, be getting something through the drive-thru and they get a cup of coffee and say, oh, by the way, whatever they got behind me, go ahead and pay for it.
Exactly.
And it'll go on for an hour that they keep moving it forwed. So there are people out there that,
Well, I came from I didn't know I was poor until I left my town. Because everybody had the same thing, very little.
That's right.
That's a little parody, but that's basically true. I'm not a rich person, but I'm not a poor person. And I like to give once in a while to somebody or something. It's it's a selfish thing. I think when giving, it's basically selfish. I want to do this thing, but you can affect people's lives.
Oh, big time.
But you have to realize it's something that I'm doing for myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy who looked like a homeless bum in one of the cities, was handing out $100 bills on the street. Say, here, and he walk around and here, you take this, here you take. He was very rich. He dressed in, scuzzy clothes and was going out handing $100 bills out on the streets.
I love it.
And I'm sure he was happy doing that too.
Yeah.
My question is always, there's a book by Leo Roston, and it's called The Joys of Yiddish. And he takes a Yiddish form, translates it into an American form, and then the actual definition. Okay. And there's one term called aha. Why don't you say aha?
Uh-huh.
Well, the joke he puts into it is a rabbi goes to a businessman, very wealthy businessman up in 20 stories building, about it, nice clothes, everything. This is time to give. Well, the businessman saying, well, you don't understand, Rabbi. We've got a lot of expenses. Da, da, da. He said, okay, go to the window. So look outside. What do you see? He said, I see people. He said, okay, go to the mirror. What do you see? He said, I see myself. And the rabbi says, aha, put a little silver behind a clear glass and all you see is yourself. Aha. It's kind of like the Scrooge story.
That's right.
But once you remind people of needs and what you need to do and how you need to feel, they loosen up. It isn't like we're soliciting, hustling them.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying, become part of this human system. Become part of this system that you can help somebody along the way.
I agree.
You go into McDonald's and you see somebody sitting on the street, you order an extra hamburger and walk out and hand it to them and go home. That kind of thing too.
Yeah.
It's no problem. No problem at all. It makes us feel good, but it does something for somebody else.
That's right.
Somebody noticed me. Somebody cares.
That's right. And someone's always watching you. Whether it's God or someone driving by in a car. It's just it really does. It plants a seed.
Yeah. And that famous poem where you're walking on the beach with two sets of footprints.
Oh, that's right. That's one of my favorite.
Yeah, and then there's only one set. And you say, there's a cute joke about this too. Okay. Little AB goes to the temple on a Saturday after everybody goes. There's this rotunda. And he waits till it's empty and he looks up. He says, God, I want to win the lottery. Well, nothing happens the next day. He goes to find the second week and says, maybe you didn't hear me last week. God, I want to win the lottery. Nothing happens. The third week, he says, God, are you paying attention? This big booming voice comes from the ceiling and says, AB, meet me halfway, buy a ticket.
That's cute.
And sometimes we have to buy a ticket.
That's right.
And give a little bit of ourselves. Now, what kind of services do you actually provide with VIP America?
We provide RNs, home health care aides, respite care, anything that needs home 24-hour care,
companion type service.
Service. We do live-ins. We can do transportation. Whatever is needed. At the home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I said, it's very eye-opening and heartwarming for me to be involved in a business like this with a company that actually, cares about, their employees and the people that we do business with. Of course, all our caregivers, we are a registry, so they're not our employees. We just match up the caregivers with the clients.
They're contract people too.
Contractor work. And, we'll go out and we'll interview, the clients, because we do our best to match up those clients with the caregivers that have those needs or, the type of personality that they're looking for. So, and, we do level 2 background checks and, the caregivers have to have, their own insurance. We make sure all their licenses are, up to date, what they need. So it's just been very enjoyable.
How about this one? How do you become a caregiver with your company?
All you have to do is you can contact us here at our Stewart office, and there's just minimal paperwork that you have to fill out, and we'll go ahead and get you signed up and get you moving. Of course, that level 2 background check needs to take place, and you have to be certified in certain things depending on what type of care you're going to be giving. So it's a very simple process.
And you do an orientation with them and
yes,
all that stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Very good. And so, your people are bonded?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, in case something happens, right?
That's right. That's right.
Somebody says, well, it's more expensive to have your own staff, but it's still expensive to have a contract group because it's costing you quite a bit of money to get them up to speed and, continue them as well.
Yeah. And like I said earlier with my mom, she did not want to go into, of course, when you say nursing home, Yeah, it's almost like a dirty word because nursing homes, as we remember them growing up, they were just, rehabs, and you saw people sitting in wheelchairs, no one taking care of them. And, they've just, the facilities that are here in the Stuart area or all across Florida are just amazing. I mean, if I was, very rich, I would have no problem, moving into one of these Taj
Or you could
Mahals.
go on Medicaid. Or
That's
somehow the attorneys would work the finances that
that's
you would qualify for Medicaid.
yeah, that's right.
In Florida, the number one economic factor in Florida are seniors. They contribute more to the economy than any other group
Wow.
because we have so many of them. Florida is God's waiting room.
It's funny. They talk about snowbirds, and with me being new down here, what is the snowbird months? Is it November through
actually
April?
after Easter and before or after Thanksgiving. Those are two landmarks. They usually wait till Easter to go home for Easter. And put on a coat and water through the wet snow. Or they wait till after Thanksgiving and put their coats away and come down here. So it's October, November usually. And so after Easter, there's a home.
Yeah. My in-laws live up north, and they have a place over in Naples. So they'll be coming down after probably Christmas.
Businesses, restaurants, and everything have to make half of their money during season.
That's right.
Or else they don't survive. They have to make money for the year for that 6 months, or they don't survive.
Yeah, I've heard that. My wife and I live up in Sebastian, and we've talked to a couple of the restaurants that we go to, and they all say the same thing. It's like they just look up and shake their head. It's like it's slow, but we got to be able to. It's like a squirrel hiding nuts. You got to be able to save when things are good, and when things take a turn.
When things are good, they're jam packed.
That's right.
They should close down for a month. Well, they couldn't afford to do that with the staff and everything.
Yeah.
If they could just meet their expenses through in the off season, that works too.
Yeah.
In fact, you talked about nursing homes. I read not too long ago that the average stay in a nursing home in the country is less than 2.5 years.
Oh.
Because so many people are on very bad conditions when they go to nursing homes. Some of them will live for 10 years or more. But the bulk of them don't live that long. Mm-hmm. There's a constant turnover of patients.
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line for people that are trying to stay in their homes. And of course everyone's living longer these days, so just trying to find ways to keep people happy and allow them to stay in their homes. It's important.
Well, up north, you got a 10-block area. There are probably 150 people that look like me. Okay. And when anybody ever got sick in that thing, everybody pitched in. My grandfather had dementia. My grandmother had horrible tumor behind her eye. They took the tumor, took the eye and everything. She wasn't capable. So we built a little apartment on my uncle's house. And everybody signed up for a time. So we were our own agency. My mother would have to go from 7 to 9, 2 nights a week, to take care of them or help them get to bed and stuff, because we took care of our own. There were enough family there to do that. In Florida, you can't find 2 relatives in a 5-state area to do that.
Yeah.
And the son is in Connecticut. What does he do? He's not going to quit his job and come down. He's 45 years old. He's in a job that's a lucrative job. He's not going to say, well, I'm going to dump that and just come down and sit and help mommy.
It's funny because people have those phone conversations and think, oh, mom and dad sound fantastic. They're no problem. But then they'll come down for a visit and they'll realize they'll, look in the refrigerator and they'll see the cream cheese that's, 6 months old. And, they're not being taken care of the way they should.
Plus the visits get less and less from the people up north that come to see their parents and loved ones. There's a cute story about a couple that retired to Arizona. And they had a daughter and a son in New Jersey. So the father calls the son. And he says, son, I got some bad news. So what's? He said, your mother and I are getting divorced. Oh, no, Dad, you can't do it. Yeah, well, we can't. He said, let me call my sister. We'll call you right back. Don't worry about it right now. So a few minutes later, he calls back. He says, we're coming down Thursday or Wednesday. We're coming Wednesday. You don't know anything. So the wife, he hangs up and the wife said, what did he say? He said, they'll be here for Thanksgiving.
That's what you got to do sometimes.
got the recognition. I would not put, my son lives in DC. I'm not going to pull that on him
That's
because he
right.
knows that story. I said, oh, Pop, you're doing that again. But yeah, family's very important to me, and I'm sure it's important to you, you know. And it's wonderful to see. I saw you brighten up when you talked about your kids and your grandkids and everything. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
you know. Like, oh, they were a burden. No, they weren't a burden, you know.
Well, that's the good thing about grandkids is, you know, you can love on them and spoil them,
And
and
then they
then
go home.
you give them back.
My son, as it turned out, didn't have children, but excuse me.
Do we need a break? We'll take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. And it's time to go back to the forum with our host, Pat Sacco.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes, sir.
You travel a lot.
Yeah, I have quite a big territory. It goes from Sebastian right down to Stewart, and everything in between. So just a lot of ground to cover. But you know,
But I want to pay you a compliment because you're around a lot. I mean, no, and that, to me, that's something. Well, okay, gee, I just kind of sneak down there and go back home, kind of thing. You're out in the community, and which is something you should be doing, and you are doing it quite well.
yes. Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be noticed.
I run into Brian at all these functions.
We're both hard workers.
Yeah.
A lot of miles
A
on the
lot
car.
of miles. Yeah. Well, I have a Chevy Sonic I bought 30 months ago, and the reason I know that is I got a little over 30,000 miles on it.
Wow.
Volunteering is 1,000 miles a month. I'm thinking I'm constantly at the gas station, and I get like 30 miles a gallon on that car. I said, "Oh my God, I'm watching this tank go down." But I might be in Stewart 2 or 3 times a day. Sometimes go to Port St. Lucie, come back to Stewart. Timing things, you know.
That's right. That's right.
As you go through a lot of gas.
I do. I'm at the pump quite often. I always try to keep an eye on where the rates are a little bit lower. And
Hit that gas station by the bridge in South Vero Beach.
okay.
There's one on the left hand going south. There's one on the left hand side just before the bridge, and they always have lower gas prices.
Oh, perfect.
I look for them.
Trick of the trade.
Yeah.
Well, my wife and I are going to start getting a little bit more involved in Meals on Wheels, you know, down here in Stewart through the Kane Center, and then up in the Vero Beach area for senior resources.
Excellent.
So
excellent.
again, just trying to give back to the community as much as we possibly can.
Excellent. We need more Bryans up there out here. You're doing really, your pace is wonderful.
Well, it's important to keep busy.
Yeah.
So and
yeah,
I
me
think
too.
if you
Yeah.
keep busy and you're helping people, it's just I think good things will happen.
All right, let's give information about VIP phone numbers.
Phone numbers for VIP America here at the local office. Our office number is 772-220-6005. My cell phone, if anyone's interested, contact me at 561-951-0983. And of course, We're servicing Martin County, St. Lucie, Palm Beach, Okeechobee, Indian River, Lee, Collier, Sarasota, DeSoto, Charlotte, Henry, Glades, Brevard, Orange, and Seminole counties. So we're out there.
That's all.
That's right.
Wow.
And
Wow.
again, our services are personal care, companion, homemaking, live-in, skilled nursing, transportation, respite, and even babysitting from time to
See,
time.
I didn't realize VIP was that diverse out in the Florida community.
Yes.
Because we always know it as, a little thing. Well, we're done. We got another interesting guest for next week on the phone.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a great day.